We're trying to find how many solutions there are to this cross number using logic. Okay, now we really don't want to start with, say, 1 across because there's lots of two-digit square numbers. Actually, a good idea is to go with 1 down because there's actually not that many three-digit cube numbers. Now we can ignore 2 cubed, which is 8, and 4 cubed, which is 64. So the first possible one would be 125, that's 5 cubed. And then 6 cubed is 216. Then 343 for 7 cubed, 512 for 8 cubed, and 729. You might have to work these out by hand. They are useful to know, for a situation such as this. Okay, now I'm just going to jump to 512. The thing is, there is no square number that starts with a 5, so I can immediately reject this one. Just make sure you explain like why you're rejecting it. 343, now there is a square number that starts with a 3, but there isn't one that ends in a 3. So I can also reject that one. And 729, there's also no square number that starts with a 7. So I'm immediately restricted to just these two numbers, 125 and 216. So let me just put these in. I can fill in some of the rest of the grid in each case. There's only one square number that starts, or a two-digit square number that starts with a 1. That's going to be 16. And in the case of 216, I'd get 25. Then for 4 across, a square number, this must be 36. That's the only square number that ends in a 6 that has 2 digits. And then over here, it would be 25. Okay, this is going well. 2 down is a square, so this would have to be 64. Okay, this one now fails because there is no square number that starts, a two-digit square number that starts with a 5. So I can ignore that solution. And I'm just working on this one over here. 3 down is a cube times a square. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. And then 3 across is a square number. Now there's quite a few square numbers that this is quite hard. I wouldn't expect you to know that all your square numbers that end in a 2 and a 4. So I think what I'm going to do is write down my cubes times squares because I've only got 2 digits here. So my lower cubes are 1, 8. Now, as soon as I get, 27 could in theory be okay. And okay, let's write down 64. So those are my cubes. And then my squares, I'm going to have 1, 4, 9, 16, and so on. So one that jumps out actually is 8 times 4. That would be a cube times a square, and that will give me 32. Are there any other options? Okay, well, 1 isn't going to work to end in a 2. Is it? So 16, 25. I suppose I should write down all my squares really. 36, 49, 64. Okay, so we can rule out 1 multiplied by a square, and we can rule out 1 multiplied by a cube. I've dealt with the 8. The 8 could also go with the 9 to give 72. So we've got 724 and 324. We just need to check if those are square numbers now. We'll do that in a second. And then 27 times 4 is already too big, and that's it. So basically, those are our two options. Okay, 324. Well, 20 times 20 is 400, so I'm looking for something that's less than that. What about, okay, 16 times 16 is 256. So how about 18 times 18? One way to calculate this is actually to write it as 20 minus 2 times 20 minus 2, and then expand a double bracket. I'm not sure if you would have covered expanding double brackets, otherwise you have to do it longhand. I can do 20 times 20 to give 400, and then 20 times minus 2 and 20 times minus 2, so minus 80, and then I add 4 on. I'm not going to get into any more detail on that right now, but yeah, look it up if you've never learned about that. And that does equal 324. So this is one is okay. 724 on the other hand, well, 30 squared is 900. 25 squared is 625. 26, that's going to end in a 6. 27 is going to end in a 9. Okay, 28, that's all we have. And 29 is not going to work because that will end in a 1. So we're just left with 28 times 28. And again, I can do 13 minus 2 times 13 minus 2 to give 900 minus 60 minus another 60 plus 4. This is clearly going to be bigger than 724. So I have systematically checked everything. It must be 125 down here, which immediately gave most of the other solutions. I then got to maybe the trickiest part, this bit here. Worked out there's two options, 72 and 32. 32 works because 324 is a square number, whereas 724 is not. So there is one possible solution. Well done.